Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Sapien podcast. Today we have Dr. Gary's patient, Andrew Berger.
Yeah, so this is a really special episode. Andrew is a type 1 diabetic. He's been sick most of his life. He really struggled. He did not want to be dependent on insulin. He did not want to be chronically ill. And the Western medicine model failed him. He really had to go on a journey and through a series of events found his way to Brian and myself, and has used kind of the Sapien concept to change his life. Before our podcast, we had a meeting and he allowed me to talk about this, but we got his labs back and they looked better than most of my patients. You don't see labs like that with a type 1 diabetic. And while most people listening are not type 1 diabetics, I think we can all relate to someone who has basically been told that they're going to be sick for the rest of their life. And this guy said, no, I'm not. And he's smart. He's inspirational. He went and got educated, and he tells his story. And I think he should be a beacon of hope for anyone who's type 1 diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or just wants to not be sick for their whole life. And I think we share a lot of great information, and his story is really great. And thank you, Andrew, for being there for people. And he's out there, supporting other type 1 diabetics. And I couldn't be more proud of that kid. And we're really grateful to have him on the show.
It really was inspirational. It was the first time meeting him, and I loved it. And I just want to stress that it's not a show for type 1 diabetics. This is a show for anyone. Just you're going to have a lot of great information. And before we start, I just have to tell everyone how this show is possible. We're supported by our own company. We're not supported by outside advertisers. We have the Sapien program, which you can find at sapien.org. And this is where we help you go on the health journey, just like Andrew did. And we give you all the tools you need. We have videos, we have written information, we have health coaching, we have it all.
Yeah, and I've said it before, we teach you how to fish. We don't just sell you fish. And to support that, we have something called the Sapien Tribe. And this is an online community where you have increased access to us. You have access to bonus episodes of our podcast. We do private Zoom calls. We have our health coach really involved. And our goal is to connect not just us, but members of our community with each other to support each other, because it's really hard what we're trying to do. It's simple, but hard, as I've said before. So I think the Sapien Tribe and the Sapien program is meant to be a tool, and you can find that all at sapien.org.
And also, you can have Dr. Gary be your doctor.
Uh-oh.
You can have this man be your doctor, and he will show you the real. Oh man, this sucks. I want to start that over.
Just simplify.
Yeah. No,
it's too much.
What's that? I can't hear you. And all.
You can just and also
healthcare.com. Just there with and also.
Okay.
Check out Evolve Health.
And also, you can check out evolvehealthcare. Oh my god. And also, you can check out evolvehealthcare.com, where Dr. Gary can be your doctor if you're in LA or if you're not in LA.
Yeah, Evolve Healthcare is my platform, and you can learn all about me. And I will also mention Eat Nose to Tail, or I should say nosetotale.org. That is Brian's company, where he's partnered with regenerative agriculture farmers that provide the highest quality meats, grass-fed beef, pasture-raised pork, among a slew of other great products. Please check it out, nosetotale.org, evolvehealthcare.com, sapien.org.
All the things. And now let's hear from Andrew Berger.
All right, we're here with Mr. Andrew Berger, Mr. Brian Sanders, and I am Dr. Gary.
Hello.
And hey, how are you guys doing today?
Good, man.
I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. So, look, we want to talk about a pretty important topic today. Here at Sapien, we talk a lot about our diet, our low carb approach, our lifestyle. And a lot of the time we're focused on type 2 diabetes. And I think that a lot of people have been reaching out to me and Brian about this issue that, people with type 1 diabetes can have some amazing results by changing their lifestyle and practicing a low carbohydrate diet. I wanted to bring Andrew on here. Andrew actually reached out to me while I was doing a presentation back in early 2020 regarding this kind of approach. He came up to me after my talk. We got to know each other, and I became his doctor. And it's been really a great experience for me, and I think for Andrew. We've worked together, and this guy has changed his life. This is one of the most inspirational patients I've had, and I really want him to share his story with you guys because it's really profound. Andrew, how are you feeling today?
Well, thank you for that introduction. I feel great. And yeah, we met at Adapt last year. Brian was there too, and you guys gave a great talk, and you became my doctor, which I was in search of a good doctor for quite a while. You know, there's just so many people that poo-pooed what I was doing. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. About 27 years ago, almost 27 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And, you know, I ate whatever I wanted to, and I would just give insulin, as every doctor said. You can eat whatever you want, just give insulin, and you'll be like the rest of the young kids. So I thought I was happy doing that, and I started seeing complications start to happen. Like, I was diagnosed with celiac in 2013, and a lot of type 1s actually have celiac. So, and for those that don't know, the celiac is a gluten allergy. So,
And really quick, for those that are confused, the difference between type 1 and type 2, I can say it or if you
yeah,
feel
please
comfortable.
go.
So type 2 diabetes occurs sort of over time. If you're eating bad food, especially high carbohydrate food, you start putting out more and more insulin. Your body develops a resistance to that hormone, and you need more and more insulin. And through that process, you have derangement in your metabolism. And that's the typical diabetes that most people talk about. Type 1 diabetes is a different process where the cells in your pancreas stop making insulin or never make insulin. It's thought to be an autoimmune phenomenon. No one really knows exactly what causes it. And the treatment is to replace the insulin that your body is not making. And historically, type 1 diabetics do really badly. Some of the sickest young people I've seen were type 1 diabetics. Despite listening to all the recommendations, they don't do well. And, you know, I think that's why I really want you to share your story, because you're kicking butt, man.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's a great explanation of type 1 to type 2. So in 2016, I moved out to LA from New York to work at a big radio station, a heritage radio station out here called Power 106. And I thought I was, my career was going perfectly, but my health was deteriorating. I gained about 50 pounds in a year, and I went for a routine eye appointment, and my doctor was like, everything looks great. Let's do one more test. And I did this one test, and I was actually in New York for my eye doctor appointment. I was visiting my parents, and my mom was like, you need to go see the eye doctor. It's been a while. And I was like, yeah, it's been actually way too long. So she actually made me go to the eye appointment. She went with me, and the eye doctor said, you might want to come in here with your mother. I was like, oh God. And he said, Andrew, you have type 1 diabetes. Your eyes are deteriorating. You have pretty severe retinopathy, and you either, get your act together, or you will live a very complicated life. And I walked down out of the appointment crying all the way up Fifth Avenue. It was pretty scary, and I still didn't know what to do. And he just said to me, good luck. And that was the appointment. At this point, I needed daily naps, and I needed naps every day. I was really sick. I mean, I didn't think I was sick. I just thought that was life, take my 2-hour nap. I could sleep 10 hours a day. I need a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day after school. after work, whatever.
And you were in your early 20s at this point, right?
I was like 16 when this started happening, but I just thought I was just tired from the day. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep at night. I was a night owl guy, so I just thought this was normal. But I was trying to sleep I was going to bed early, waking up early, getting 8 hours of sleep, and still needing a nap towards my end of when I would say I was at my sickest. I had extremely yellow teeth. They were starting to turn green. And I had a extreme binge eating disorder and chronic carb food addiction, which I still think I'll battle with. If there's something in front of me that I shouldn't be eating, there's still temptations. So I went on Weight Watchers, which was actually the third or fourth time I went on Weight Watchers. The first time I did Weight Watchers, I was in college, and I lost 50 pounds, but I gained all of it back plus 10. So I would try I knew it worked because I did it once and it worked. And every time I went back on it, it got harder and harder. And I didn't understand why. And so I was going to the gym 6 days a week. I was counting points, and I was going to the gym for like 2 hours a day. I was really, I was probably the king of Seco, calorie in, calorie out at that point. And I found a fitness podcast because I couldn't listen to music anymore. I was just so sick of everything. I needed something new and maybe some motivation while I worked out. So I found a low carb podcast, and it was called Fitness Confidential. I just typed in fitness, and it was Vinny Tortorich's podcast. And he's screaming about Weight Watchers on one episode, like top of his lungs. And I was like, what is he talking about? And he's like, I just don't understand why they can tell people to eat as much pie filling as they want, but a piece of red meat will kill their whole day on Weight Watchers. And I was like, this is pretty interesting. So I looked more into what he was doing, and I called Weight Watchers that same day and canceled and said, I'm never calling you guys again. And they, they try to offer me 6 months free, this, that, and a third, how their rate, how their stock is doing. So they're not doing very well now. So in about 2 months, I had about a 25-pound weight loss, which was awesome. I was 203 pounds at this point, and I'm only 5'5". So I don't know if that's considered morbidly obese, but I felt morbidly obese. So like in 2 months, I got down to like 185 or 188, and it was pretty great. I saw a surprising drop in blood sugars. So even though this eye doctor told me I had problems, I still didn't know what to do and how to fix it. I just thought that was going to be my life. And then I got on low carb because I was so heavy and I just couldn't look at myself. So I ended up dropping the weight, and then my blood sugars would drop. I mean, drastically dropped. And I had to drop my insulin down about 10 to 20 units in about 2 or 3 months. So now I'm down from 60 units of just baseline insulin to about 10 every single day, which is
amazing.
I would say is amazing. I think it's pretty good. So I'm happy with that. And then just to backtrack, I found low carb. I started dieting August of 2018, October 2018. So almost 2 years. I found low carb.
2020 or
2018. 2018. So it's been a little bit of a journey. We're in 2020 now. So I cut all the processed foods out. I started looking at the works of Jason Fung, and I started doing fasting. I thought his Diabetes Code was an incredible book. And
Yeah.
I read that along with Gary Taubes' book. And
great cast you got so far.
July 2019, I found, I was here during Christmas, and if you're ever in LA during Christmas and you're not from here, it's a ghost town. So I was watching, I found like Michaela Peterson's and Sean Baker's videos on Joe Rogan, their podcast, and this guy's talking about that all he eats is meat. And I was like, whoa, what the hell? This is insane. And it took me some time, but I just 1 month I'm just like, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna try this out for a few days and see how I feel. So I was just eating. I just didn't eat any veggies, This was around July of 2019, and eventually I just went carnivore like around that time, and in about 7 months I lost like 50 pounds, which was pretty awesome. I was losing weight. I wasn't even trying it. I was trying to lose weight, but I was eating a good amount of food and still losing weight, and blood sugars were still controlled. So here we are now, and I pretty much I don't think I'll do this forever, but it's more of just a beef and water diet, because it was easier to control the blood sugars, knowing, the less variables there are, the easier it is to control. And felt very satiated. So I don't feel restricted doing this, even though some people would say it's the most restricting diet. I think it's the most, as Sean Baker says, I think this is the most liberating way of eating. So, now I eat about 1 to 2 meals a day. Sometimes it's OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, and about a pound of food a day. I've tried the Sophia Clemens protocol, and for me, it was just extremely hard.
So just to point out, Dr. Zofia Clemens works with Paleo Medicina in Hungary, and they recommend the Paleo Ketogenic diet, which is a really high-fat version of like a nose-to-tail animal diet with organs, and it's just a lot of fat. So I guess that's
it is
big difference.
Yeah, but the only other thing was that there was like, she also recommends eating like 300 grams of food, or between 300 and 400 grams of food a day, and that's, to me, was a starvation diet. And I actually tried it for 2 weeks, and one day I just ended up binging on like pork rinds because I felt it just wasn't enough food for me. The blood sugars those 2 weeks were the best they've ever been, but I just felt like I was starving to death. So I stopped doing that. But yeah, right now I'm down about 75 pounds. I vary between 73 and 75 pounds. My A1C in August of 2018 was about an 8, and now I'm at a 4.9.
Nice.
Perfect BMI.
Yeah. My body fat was 45% when I started, and I'm now down to my last DEXA scan, which was 2 months ago, was 17% body fat. So I made a huge improvement there. My blood sugars mostly run between 65 and 95, and my retinopathy is reversing. Wow. So something that they said I would have to take shots for and it would not go away, they are very confused on how I'm doing this by myself.
They don't know a lot of things.
They keep telling me to come back once a month. They're like, because they're just like, will it change? Will it change? They just bring me back once a month to see if it's changing. And every time I go back, they're just like, come back in a month. And so I saw another retinologist, and I think that's the name for them. And he was like, I don't want to see you for 6 months. I was like, wow, good. He saw such a dramatic change. So
did you tell him what you were doing? Did you tell the original people how you're doing it? Or
but they don't
get it.
They're just like, okay, your life sucks that you're doing that. They just think I'm crazy. So
yeah.
And I'm fine with that. Let them think I'm crazy. But my doctor's also, my eye doctor's like 65 pounds overweight, telling me to control my A1C. I'm like, why don't you control your A1C?
Well, I think that's really one of the biggest issues here, is that when you have such success with something that's thought to be dangerous, frankly, in the world of medicine, it's like a slap in the face to the physicians, right?
Yeah.
You're saying everything they know is wrong. All the things you studied are wrong.
I mean, just listen to what you just said. You're an educated guy. You've read books. You've looked at people that have committed their whole lives to this. You've taken from them. You've integrated it and created a customized experience for yourself. I mean, that should be the goal of every physician, to provide that kind of treatment plan. And so when you show up to these doctors that are probably suffering from the same chronic diseases that all of us, have to deal with, it's insulting, or it's confusing. It's all of these negative things to them, instead of being like, hey, look at this young man who's crushing it. Maybe I should open my mind and try something different so I could help more patients. I think most of them are taking it as oh my God, he's infringing on my territory. Like, how can he tell me how to take care of patients? That's been my experience with a lot of patients that take this approach, and then they get shunned or even demeaned by their providers. And it's really sad. And I try to be like a beacon. Like, most of the time, what have I done for you, really, Andrew? Like, I just support you. I just go, hell yeah, like, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because I just think a lot of doctors are unwilling to support someone trying something different.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and it's exactly what you said. It's like, you just support me, and I'll call you for labs and other things, and that's probably like the beauty of a great patient to doctor relationship. I don't think there's a lot of that out there. I also think doctors think they're the authority, and that's probably not a healthy thing for our health as a country, or and a world more so, because I remember coming into your office and you said to me, people just don't give a damn about their health. And that's another problem is, doctors are used to people who just come in, and I used to be afraid of doctors. I mean, I would go in and my blood pressure would be high. I would be extremely scared. And I think most patients are kind of going in there just hoping to go out alive and
Mhm.
and just get out of there and okay,
Yeah.
there's not too many problems. I can lower my cholesterol. Of my LDL is high. I was disappointed when my LDL wasn't high enough, but um, but I think that's doctors kind of have taken advantage of that patient. The normal patient now is this. Most of them are we live in an at-risk society, and these people, the doctors kind of take advantage of that. Most patients don't know, so we can put them on a statin drug, we can put them on this, we can put them on that, and when you kind of go in there and you go against them, they don't know how to react to it. My endocrinologist actually wasn't so when I first walked into my endocrinologist and he saw my A1C go down from a 6.8 to, at the time, was a 5.3, he was so excited. I told him all I eat was eggs and bacon, and I thought he was gonna throw me against the wall, and he actually was like, keep doing it. So I was, but he's not also. We've argued about going off the pump. 'Cause I used to be on an insulin pump, and I want to go back on shots, and because the insulin that goes into pumps is very fast, rapid acting insulin, and when you eat a higher protein, higher fat diet, you need longer lasting insulin, and that doesn't really go into pumps. So I actually asked him for old school insulin, and he was kind of against it. We met again, and he actually apologized to me. But for me, it's not about me now. I wish he would tell his patients, like, I really recommend a low carb diet. But these guys at these big university institutions are being backed by so much corporate interest. I don't think they could actually do it. They probably know to do that. I think my first endocrinologist in 1993 was telling my parents to go on a low carbohydrate diet. And I probably was on for a little bit, but I was 3. I don't remember. I don't think my parents actually remember about that. But the healthcare is.
There's something called standard of care. So there's a lot of issues to why, doctors are, even if they get it, right? Even if they're like, yeah, low carb diet, there's a momentum to care that's called standard of care.
Yeah.
Usually when we introduce something new, like a new drug or a new treatment protocol, it's standard of care plus whatever it is this new thing is, right? What we're talking about is not standard of care. It's we're gonna change our entire lifestyle, which means that the downstream effects are we use a different kind of insulin in your case. We use a different approach to drugs. We do different lab tests to assess our productivity. We interpret labs differently. And like you alluded to, the LDL cholesterol stuff. When you eat like we do, your cholesterol panel looks different than the typical American. And thus we analyze it differently. And so many of us are struggling to have other doctors and providers understand that reinterpretation. So I think that like changing that concept of like we have a standard of care and it works and now we can improve on it. No, it doesn't work. People are sick. The standard of care doesn't work and we have to change it completely. That's really scary to people. I think that the second thought I had on what you were saying is that, you know, when I talk to my colleagues, especially in the hospital, because they don't do so much lifestyle management, they do a lot of sick care in the hospital, right? When I tell them that, hey, you know, we change completely how we eat, we change the frequency of how we eat, we exclude an entire food group for the most part, right, in carbs, they're like, that's impossible. No one will do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this idea that people won't change, that this is how it is, this is the life we have, and there's no changing. And that's an illusion. And that's a trap. And, you know, I think that's something that we all like promote so much is it's very easy to change your life. You just described changing your lifestyle like 4 separate times in a 2-year process just to get to your goal.
Yeah.
And when you don't want to feel shitty and you don't want to be sick, that's what you do. But if you want to be sick and just keep doing the same thing and take more and more drugs, then that's called standard of care at this point in America.
Oh my God. Well, so there's so many things. Well, one is you can't even go against the standard of care. So many doctors, like you're saying, both of you are saying, is that even if a doctor wanted to, some of them are stuck because they could get sued for malpractice if they deviate from the standard of care. So there's problems on the highest level. And then if you're talking about lifestyle, counting every calorie and having to go to the gym for 2 hours is a terrible thing that no one wants to do. You know, so why are they saying that it's so hard to change people's lifestyle when their bad advice that, you know, that they try to promote doesn't work and it sucks? At least ours works, and I don't think it sucks at all. So one of my big points is changing anything is not fun, right? If you have your routine and you like what you're doing, then you have to change it. It's not fun. The process of change is not fun. But once you get there, if you're, you know, adopting the correct approach, it's great. So this is how I explain to you, right? It's like, once you get there, it's like, okay, yeah, it wasn't easy for me. I remember 4 years ago, I'm like, yeah, but I eat like bagel sandwiches for lunch, you know, like this is what I do. And then I was like, how am I ever going to change this? I love this. I'm eating these giant breakfast sandwiches. They're so good. And then, you know, I made the change, and now that is not appealing to me, really. It's like, I love how I eat, and it's not restrictive. And see, that's what Sean Baker's kind of thing is, right? It's that liberation. So yeah, I mean, maybe you could talk about that change and then how you feel now.
Well, the change was so worth it. I mean, even during it, I kind of felt like it was the right thing to do. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. Like, I have a whiteboard now that, and I check it off every single day. It's like, has my exercise program, which I actually it's something similar to what you do, Brian, but it's only twice a week and it's 15 minutes, but I just got done doing it when we started, but it's like a very high intensity training.
Yeah.
And I have a whiteboard that just shows everything I need to do for the day. And like, so I have that on there. I have like my walk, stretching. I do an ab routine for like 2 minutes a day, and sunlight. And that's now my new lifestyle every single day. So there's a beauty in everything with a change. If you want to make it if you want to make that change, you can make it a really nice change for you. And now, like, instead of just waking up in the morning, going right to my computer, I do things for my life, and that even makes me feel better every single day. So the change even during it was worth it. I was really finding out what I needed to do to take my health back into my own hands.
Well, so yeah, can I jump in? So a lot of people are afraid of change, and it is afraid, and they think it's going to be worse, but it sounds like yours was better. You're talking about working out for 2 hours, however many times a week, and now you're doing 15 minutes twice a week.
Yeah, it was
right?
6 days a week, and I do a 15
right,
minute.
6 days a week.
It was 6 days a week for 2 hours, and now I just do 15 minutes of this really high intensity exercise. And when I actually get done, I feel great, and I wish it went longer. And but there's a reason why we don't go over 15 minutes, because you need to recover your type 2 muscle fibers after. And I think like most people go to the gym and their favorite part of going to the gym is leaving. And I heard that quote, and actually I just finished. It's Wednesday and my next workout is Sunday, and I'm already looking forward to Sunday. And so you could find the positive change. It's out there.
All right, so part of that is because it's not so grueling, you do look forward to it, right? That's I like to tell people too. I mean, I work out 5 days a week, and I have 5 kind of different workouts, and they're all about 15, 17 minutes. So they're all different, they're all short, and that's what keeps me doing it, right? Because if I had some crazy routine, I wouldn't want to do it. But because it's short and easy, I do it. And also, I see the P2E diet book behind you.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to my boy, Dr. Ted Naiman. He's
cheap one, it was worth it.
Yeah, he's great. And here's my little catchphrase: eat densely, move intensely. So that's what we're all doing here. Everyone on this call, at least, is eating nutrient dense foods, right? We're talking about animal foods. We're talking about some key plant foods that I like. And then we're moving intensely. We're doing these short, intense workouts, and you're getting a lot more bang for your buck, just like the food. Well, so with the food, a good example of why carbs aren't good. It's not like we're just these crazy people that don't like carbs. Carbs are not nutrient dense. You have to eat a lot. You have a lot of energy, right? It's a lot of calories for a very little protein or micronutrients, what you need, right? So what you end up doing is overeating. Right. So you're overeating, and you're not. So there's a whole thing about the protein leverage hypothesis. I'm actually reading the book with the 2 authors that did the study, all these animal studies. It's called Eat Like the Animals. And they talk about this, why all animals eat to a certain protein target. And if you're eating a whole bunch of carbs and food that's not nutrient dense, you're going to overeat calories, right? So if you eat nutrient dense foods, it's very efficient. You're eating just what you need. You're getting all the protein, micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and you're good. And you're losing weight or maintaining weight. Same thing with working out. You can do like these 3-hour, marathon workouts and train for a marathon, which I think no one should do. It's too much exercise. It's chronic cardio. Or you can do what your body actually needs in the right amount of time, and everything works out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And back to the food part, like I was eating so poorly. I mean, I was eating, first I was bored. So you would still think like 2 family-sized bags of chips would make you full, and it would just not at all. And it's all chemicals, maltodextrin, dextrose, you name it. But like even that wasn't helping. So I think the problem with carbohydrates is they're just especially the refined carbohydrates, is the high fat, high sugar. You got these scientists putting the perfect amount of each into a bag of chip. That's why you can't stop eating them, because they're highly addictive foods. And they have, again, no nutrient density at all. I mean,
what's interesting that I want to bring up really quick, just to circle back to why I really wanted to have Andrew on this podcast, is, you guys are describing our community. We've mentioned all these great people, and in our community, we talk a lot about type 2 diabetes, and really even in just medicine in general. And then when we talk about type 1 diabetes, or we talk about people with autoimmune diseases, they're thought of as sort of having a different physiology, we have to take a different approach. They're going to be sick. There's like the way they kind of implied to you once you get the diagnosis, man, you're going to be sick. You're going to have to come to the doctor. There's no way of really doing anything about it. You're just going to have to manage this disease. And you're a perfect example of it's not different. It's not different. You just need to educate yourself and find what works for you within the space, within this understanding of low carbohydrate foods, real whole foods, nutrient density. Start navigating that water using doctors, using health experts out there that we've mentioned, and you can heal yourself, and you can get on a physiological dose of insulin, which is what you're on now, right?
Yep.
Replacing the insulin that your pancreas isn't making, but not having extra insulin. You don't need that extra insulin. There's this other concept that's prevalent with type 1 diabetics, that you need carbs. I mean, it's true for everyone, but we talk about that. You have to have carbs or your blood sugar is going to drop out and you're going to die, right? How many times have you heard that?
Oh my God. If I would be a rich man if I had a quarter for every time I heard that.
It's important for people because not a lot of people know type 1 diabetics. It isn't that
It's the
common.
most misunderstood understood condition, I think, maybe in the world. It's, not saying it's the hardest, definitely not. But like just to go with what you're saying, like, we look like normal people. We're walking, we have our feet in the beginning could go badly, but we have everything that, like, no one could just go like, you're a type 1 diabetic. I'm not in a wheelchair, knock on wood. And so it's the most misunderstood condition out there. On top of, I think too many people are the reason why we're getting, as type 1s are getting sicker and sicker. Because every type 1 I know that's on an insulin pump has a blood sugar of over 250. They're
Absolutely.
all overweight, all of them. You watch YouTube videos on type 1 diabetics reviewing a pump, they're heavy. It's what I realize is that too many, like the doctors, the parents, everybody's having a sorry party, as I'll call it, for they want them to live a normal life. But really, what you're just doing is letting them live normal. During the times, let's say I was diagnosed at 3, you don't realize that by 23, you're living a death sentence at that point. But they let you do whatever you want, eat the cookies, the pizza, the cake at a party, or whatever the case may be when you're younger, and you're not even old enough to remember those things. So I got so sick doing that, and a lot of it was my fault. I wouldn't blame anybody else. I was like sneaking cookies. I was doing all types of terrible things to my health as a kid, and just to be like the rest of them. But really, you could be the rest of them with a healthy lifestyle. I'm sure, like, if I would have actually taken care of my health, I would be taller.
Well, the expectation was for you to be a sick man, right?
Agree.
From the day you got the diagnosis, everyone looked at you, and then you started looking at yourself as a sick guy. And that is like, expectations drive outcomes.
Yep.
If you expect to do badly, then why not sneak the cookie? Like, I'm already going to be sick.
Yeah.
This brings me happiness. I think that, I wanted to share this with you and with everyone. Like, we worked together a few times. I gave you some guidance with your medications. We kind of reinforcement on how your program, how your nutrition program is going. And on our last visit, when I looked at your labs, I didn't have like an expectation, right? I was like, I saw in front of me a healthy looking guy. We had a conversation, whatever. And I looked at these labs, and these were some of the best labs I've seen on any young 20-something-year-old man. The cholesterol looked beautiful. The A1C looked beautiful. The inflammatory markers were perfect.
Can we talk about the HDL and trigs?
Yeah, really quickly. But really,
yeah.
When I just genuinely told you my interpretation of your labs, and to see the pride, the happiness, the transformative kind of self-empowerment in your eyes was so amazing, Andrew. Because you put in work. Like, you didn't just do the stuff, you learned about it, you spoke about it eloquently, and that's something that I will never forget, because
Wow. That's awesome.
that's some shit. Like, you need to put in the work if you want to feel good, if you want to look like Andrew, walk around feeling awesome, vibrant, looking great, feeling great, skin looks great, like the whole package, right? You have to put in the work. And when you put in the work, you get that feeling of empowerment, that feeling of, I did this. And it's the exact opposite of that bullshit of, you're going to be sick for the rest of your life, and now you expect to be sick for the rest of your life. It's the exact opposite. It's, no, I'm going to be awesome.
Or just injecting something and then expecting that to do the work for you, right? If you just like, oh, I'm just going to take this pill or just take the injection, then it's the opposite of doing the work. Everyone wants a shortcut. Everyone wants the work to be done for them.
Yeah, it's funny that you say about the labs. Brian Lenskis is a good friend of mine now, and I went to his house with the labs, and we had a dinner, and he's just like, "There's the guy that brings the labs everywhere now," and it was like, that was like my certification of like, I finally like fixed everything in a weird way. Like, I've had so many bad, like all my labs in my memory are just been bad. Except for like the last couple, but this was like so good that I was just like, I mean, I have it. I want to frame it. It's so good, but
it also reflects you,
right? That's why, because it's more it's more than just numbers on a paper.
Mm-hmm.
You could see it. You're vibrating at a higher frequency. You were so happy. Your energy is high. Like, I wasn't surprised, and I've never seen a type 1 diabetic with labs like that. So, Brian, let's just jump into that, what Brian was saying. So A1C, people know about. A1C is a reflection of your blood glucose over the last 3 months or so. It's looking at sugar attached to your red blood cells. And we use that as a pretty good marker of what your average blood sugar is. You have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, when your A1C is greater than 6.5. Most type 1 diabetics, because they don't make insulin and they eat badly, their A1Cs are 7, 8, 9. That's
10.
What Andrew was talking about.
So
and our goal,
diabetes. They have type 1 and type 2.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing that you say. I have to just bring that up because I had no idea about that. Like, I didn't think, most doctors don't think that's possible because they're so worried about type 1. They don't even think about, they think type 2 is an afterthought. Right. And so Rob Sivis said to me, he was like, you have type 2 on top of, you had type 2 on top of your type 1. And when we spoke through Instagram, we messaged each other a couple of weeks ago. He was like, congratulations, your type 2 is finally in remission. And I just think more endocrinologists need to start looking at type 1s also as type 2s when they're that unhealthy. We're not looking at, like, I was definitely type 2. I was resistant to the insulin I was giving. I mean, I was giving like 30 units of food a day. I had to type it in twice into my pump because I would go through the maximum bolus and I have to give another bolus. So I'd be like, sometimes I was giving like 35 units of insulin for a meal.
And part of the problem with that is our A1C goal is less than 7.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
So think about this. So you have diabetes and you want to have low blood sugars. And as physicians, our goal is to get your A1C less than 7. So if your A1C is 6.8, it's still super high. You have diabetes. I just told everyone that diabetes is diagnosed at an A1C greater than 6.5. And yet we find it that we've accomplished our goal if your A1C is 6.8 and you're on drugs and you're on a bunch of insulin. That's part of the problem. So I always tell my patients, like, my goal for you is not less than 7. My goal for you is as low as we can get this A1C, and while you're feeling awesome.
Yeah.
If we can get you down to 5.1, 5.0, 4.9, let's do it. It's a big challenge, but that's really what our goal should be. You don't set your goals low and then, we did better. No, you have to set your goals high. That's how you're successful. You set high goals and you do your best.
Well, my nurse practitioner brought an article to me once, and it was like, I was sitting in the office and she's like, there's research, all this research showing that there's no benefit to having an A1C under 6. And I said, That's effing BS. Not the abbreviations either. I screamed it, and she was like, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's what's wrong with, I actually said, like, that's what's wrong with everything that's going on in this world and what you guys are doing. She's like, well, I'm just showing you, my job is to show you the research. I said, well, that research, who's it funded by? I was pretty bad.
Whose job is it to show the people the research? There's a cult of evidence-based medicine. Your job is to provide healthcare. Healthcare is a dynamic approach integrating all information. People that are like, oh, this is what the research shows. This is what I'm going to do. That shit is crazy, you guys.
They're so afraid of me going low, but my whole thing is I have a CGM that's so loud. My phone goes off if I go low. It rings so loud. I listen to loud stuff because of my job, and I hear it perfectly. It wakes me up every time, knock on wood, but they're so worried about me going under 65. I'm like, 65 feels good to me now. 65 to 85, 95 feels good to me now. It's when we're in the 30s, that's a real low blood sugar. If we're in the 40s, that's a low blood sugar. 50s, yeah, we're pretty low. But you guys are worried about, like, they were like 70 is too low. I said, you're out of your mind.
They're just,
this brings up an important,
well, just to say,
this brings up an important point too. So I'm so sorry, Brian, I jumped right back in. If you're a type 1 diabetic or a type 2 diabetic and you're doing all this, I highly recommend getting a physician to supervise you. You can get in trouble with all of this stuff if you're not thoughtful, if you're not educated, and you're not supervised. So I do want to mention that. Like, low blood sugars are dangerous. People can get really sick from that. Andrew spends a lot of energy making sure that he's safe.
A lot.
And learning a lot of energy. And I do that for my patients. I've had to do it less for him because he's so great. But there's a lot of patients that I have to really manage more aggressively, and we do a lot of visits, and that's okay.
Yeah,
sorry, Brian.
I just want to say real quickly to that point that, like, people have asked me, like, how to go off of insulin, and I tell them right away, like, you have to get that supervised. I cannot tell you. I said, I can tell you what has worked for me, but I don't use it as a recommendation for anybody. Like, people would say, I didn't think so because I lived with the disease for 26 years, but, like, it was easy for me to understand what was going on when I was doing all this, but most people cannot do what I did, like, at all. Do not do it. So.
On their own, no. But I do think most people, if they're committed to making a lifestyle change, can do this under supervision. And again, he's not off insulin. He's just on a physiological dose of insulin. So he doesn't have type 2 diabetes. He's just replacing, the insulin his body's not making.
Well, with type 1, there's the basal and there's the bolus. So the basal insulin is just what is the physiological part it's a baseline that your body needs. And then the bolus is the extra that you need. So that's what you don't really need. Yes. So I was just saying they're working off the wrong paradigm. So a lot of these medical professionals, they're just using old information. They're just bought into this old system. It's in the textbooks. It's like as good as gold. Well, that's not true. Science changes. We have better ideas, and they're looking at a sick population. And maybe with a sick population, they're going to be having problems if the blood sugar goes below 65. But someone like yourself that's healthy, that's completely normal. And I wanted to get into labs too. I was most impressed with the HDL and triglycerides. So I don't want to get too crazy about the LDL because I've been listening to a lot of stuff on both sides with really smart people, and I have high LDL and I don't think it matters, but there's still some people who think it does matter. But I think what matters is the context of your diet and the context of your other blood markers. So the most important blood markers from a lipid panel to me, and Dr. Gary can weigh in on this, is the HDL and triglyceride, especially the ratio, the HDL to triglyceride ratio, right? And your triglyceride to HDL ratio is amazing. Do you remember your numbers or your two values?
53 to 54 or something. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So what's your HDL?
HDL is, I think, 54. Right?
Was it? And your triglycerides?
53.
So you have basically a 1-to-1, right? Yeah. So that's really great, right? And you want to be like even below 2 is good. You want low triglycerides and get a higher HDL. I've seen a lot of people on standard diets, even like standard healthy diets, their HDL is like 40 or low, the low HDL, and their triglycerides are 130, right? That's terrible. And then their LDL is like, say like 120. And they think, oh, I'm so great because my LDL is only 120. That's kind of okay.
Or
But
85 for the LDL. It's like
it's too low.
yeah.
Yes. So people can listen to like Dave Feldman. I did a few podcasts with him, and he's really smart about this kind of thing. But he'll also be cautiously optimistic, as he says, because he doesn't want to just say, "Hey, have a LDL of 280 and you're fine," because
Right.
we
Lipidology, if I can, lipidology is not so simple. We're still learning about it. It's also been muddied by the drug industry, which has incentives to maintain the standard of care, which is statin therapies, and also managing these things without looking at a full panel, but targeting LDL goals instead of looking at a metabolic profile and analyzing someone's overall picture. HDL, we know, is good. And I was taught even in med school, the high HDL is good, but they don't worry about what's good. It's not about what's good. It's what's bad, because bad things you can treat with drugs. So if I have a lot of patients that are on a similar kind of program and they have an HDL of 90 or 100, triglycerides of 50, and an LDL of 170, 180, and a total cholesterol of 220, and their doctors are freaking out, you're going to die from a heart attack, take a statin. But without taking into context the fact that what does it mean to have an HDL of 90 and not eat any carbs, have zero inflammatory markers, and when you look at this person, they're like the healthiest person you've ever seen, and you want to throw a statin at them? You want to throw a statin at them? And low triglycerides. That's what I'm saying. This is a pattern that's developing. And Andrew, over the next few years, I would not be surprised to see your pattern moving into that direction. The triglycerides stay really low and that HDL climbs and climbs and climbs. We don't do research to look at what high HDL does, because you can't make money when you prove that high HDL is protective. You don't make money on that, right? You don't sell a drug. You only make money saying
that drives it.
You only make money saying that, oh, this LDL is correlated with this or that, and we need to give you this drug to drop your LDL.
Yeah.
And then we have all this disparate research talking about, well, if your cholesterol is really low in older age, you have a higher risk of mortality. And, they're just mixed, and everyone struggles to analyze it and integrate it. So I do think that lipidology itself is really, really tricky, and you have really smart people like David Feldman trying to analyze like what we are seeing clinically. But I don't think anyone should expect the recommendations to change or, change in our approach to lipidology, because unless there's money in it, we're not going to change. And what we're talking about, lifestyle change, cutting out processed foods, eating a high meat diet, doesn't make anyone money. Mm-hmm. So everyone has to remember that, and that what you're going to do, if you're going to listen to us, if you're going to follow a pattern like what Andrew's doing, it has to be for yourself. You have to be ready and willing to get into it with your doctor, potentially into it with your family members that are going to be like, oh my God, you're going to have a heart attack. You've got to like own your own analysis of the situation and go for it and live your best life, because this isn't going to change. So that's just my comment on the lipidology is we can analyze it. We can talk about these ratios, but that's all we're ever going to do. Yep. There's not going to be money to change this paradigm.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'll just throw this in too with Dave Feldman. He ate a pure processed food diet of white bread and bologna, and he lowered his LDL successfully to like 85. So he went and then that's just a good example how it doesn't make sense at all, right? He had the great numbers with the high HDL. With the high LDL on the natural food diet with a high fat, like an ancestral appropriate, a species appropriate, a sapien diet. And it was all good except for the LDL. He started eating white bread and bologna, and his other numbers got terrible. His triglycerides went way up, but his LDL went down. Wow, so great. So what is he going to go to his doctor? Okay, so now you should be eating white bread and bologna because my LDL is low. It's insane. So we got to wrap this up, though. I want to throw out a few more names. We thrown out a lot of names. Dr. Brian Lenskis, Ted Naiman. Who'd you say in the beginning? Dr. Tro. You said Gary Taubes. We were talking about Jason Fung. I'll throw out 2 more. Marty Kendal. Look up people listening. If you have he's great for all kinds of stuff, but his wife is type 1 diabetic. He's a nutrition nerd. Marty Kendal with Optimizing Nutrition with a S, optimizing because he's in Australia. OptimizingNutrition.com. Really great stuff. This is where I learned about the bolus and the basal and the type 1 and how it's really good stuff, these long articles. And also Andrew Kutnick. He's a researcher guy with type 1, and I met him at a conference. He's doing a lot of great things. We'll just put the links in the show notes. And lastly, I don't like calling it a low carb diet. That's very like a negative way to look at it. We're calling this a Sapien diet, right? Hopefully people know this is a Sapien podcast, but we don't call it a low carb diet. I mean, we're just saying we eat a nutrient dense diet, right? Which implies low carbs because carbs are not nutrient dense, right? So we're talking about a Sapien diet. We're talking about animal based, nose to tail, embracing fat, focusing on protein, minimizing carbs, and
getting me hungry, man.
Yeah,
and monitoring meal frequency.
Exactly.
And monitoring meal
not
frequency.
Eating all the time. Andrew said 1 to 2 times a day. That's great. That's all you need.
Yeah,
satisfying meals.
I fast 16 hours a day, so I'm like, I just did a workout, so right now I'm a little bit hungry. My body's telling me to eat something, and then I won't eat again for another 8 hours or so, and I'll have dinner, and it's so much easier to. I don't think I have a lot more time during the day now to do other things than think about
food and snacks.
Fat food place I'm gonna go to next, and so.
I love it. Andrew, thank you so much for sharing your story, brother, because I really think a lot of people are going to be inspired to make a lifestyle change and get control of their health.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I really want to keep encouraging especially type 1 diabetics to actually reach out to me. I've answered so many people in the last 2 weeks with my results. And so if you can, is it okay to share my social media?
Yeah, please share. Yeah. Share how people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so at type 1, the number 1, Berger, Berger, and also type1burger@gmail.com. I want people to email me. I really like helping people. The story is going to get better and better for everyone, and I think I can help, start that up and point people in the right direction, and that's what matters to me now. So,
awesome,
thank you so much, brother.
I love it. Take care, man.
All right, guys.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Please share this episode with friends and family. Give us a review on iTunes, and check out everything else we're doing on sapien.org. And we'll see you next time.